back home, you know? Of course, since back home is pretty much a rented closet.
Hello there gorgeous gamers, and welcome back to Pure Play TV, and we've got another review for you, and it's for Taxi Chaos, which is out now on PS4, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. It's also playable on PS5 and Series XS via backwards compatibility, and this review was done playing the game on PS5 with a code provided by the publisher. This review comes from our network site, Pure PlayStation, so check them out. Crazy Taxi was one of my all-time favourite games to play as a kid. It was simple, satisfying and really good fun. Unfortunately, Sega has left Crazy Taxi to die, and now we have nothing. Or do we? Enter Taxi Chaos, a new Crazy Taxi inspired game by Dutch developer Lion Castle. But is it any good? Does Taxi Chaos deliver, or does it spit and splutter at the starting line? Honestly, it's a bit of both, but I'm leaning more towards this one being a win. The gameplay is exactly what you would expect. You drive a cab, pick up passengers, and ferry them around a really lovely, bright and colourful version of New York City. It's more an idyllic version of the Big Apple than a genuine representation. The real place is nowhere near as pretty, but the game does take strides to recreate landmarks like Central Park, the piers, and even City Hall and the Empire State Building, all of which have been renamed, obviously, to avoid the evil lawyers. You drive up to a passenger, park inside their circle, and then they will tell you where they want to go. An on-screen arrow will guide the way, and a little box in the bottom left will give you a rough idea as to how far away you are and if you're travelling in the right direction. I found the arrow to be a bit of a pain. It wasn't always reliable or accurate, and it would often point in the opposite direction even when I was looking right at my end destination. It could do with a bit of tweaking then. I used the bottom left box, which shows your distance from your target location, and that did the job a little better. I knew that if the number was going down quickly, I was going the right way, and then it's just a case of getting to the last 100 meters and keeping an eye out for the marked zone to park in. Simple. But Taxi Chaos is not content with just ripping an entire concept and calling it a day. The game also has a jumping mechanic, which sounds like good fun on paper, but in reality, I seldom used it. But that could change, and let me explain why. The jumping is supposed to give you a little boost up to rooftop shortcuts, and it does. It can also be used to jump over traffic or other obstacles that get in your way. And it works. But, and here's the kicker, it really slows you down afterwards. Only for around a second, mind you, but you do lose all momentum that you've built, and it feels like jumping resets your rhythm. The developer has told me that they're working on an update to improve this, as well as a few other things, so I'm hopeful that in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to come back to the game and see if I can beat some of my high scores. There are 3 game modes in Taxi Chaos. You have your traditional arcade style mode where you're racing the ticking clock. You also have a pro mode, which is the same, but without any of the visual guidance. You'll need to get good at the game to make any progress here, and it's unfortunate that the best cars are locked behind pro mode progress. Not because I'm crap at the game. At the time of putting this review together, I'm actually on the top 5 of the leaderboards. But for the younger players who may not have the ability to play the game as well as us grown-ups, it'll be hard for them to get all of the cars. Lastly, there's free roam, and here you're free to just explore the city at your leisure without any stress of keeping time. You can still pick up passengers if you want, but I found it's best used as a learning tool to try to memorise customer drop-off locations for pro mode. It's also nice to have just a little zip around, and my 4-year-old boy, Charlie, he enjoyed driving around and jumping across buildings without being pressured to play the game properly. So if you've got younger kids, I would suggest plonking them in free roam as it's the least stressful. I really enjoyed playing Taxi Chaos, but it's not perfect and it's a far way from being a must-play game. For one, it just doesn't feel like Crazy Taxi. I know it's supposed to be its own thing, but it's missing the winning attitude that Crazy Taxi had. And that's partly down to the really family-friendly presentation and the elevator music soundtrack. But again, this is something that will change in the near future. The developer has also told me that more upbeat rock music will be added to the game in a future update. The game also has a few unfortunate glitches. I've had a handful of crashes, though thankfully not during actual gameplay, but after a run has ended. The visuals, while being really nice and colourful, aren't anything to shout about. Characters are basic, but they are at least voiced, and there is some humorous, self-aware back and forth between your choice of driver and passengers. But there are glitches, and while they're not game-breaking, they are annoying. I've never enjoyed falling through the map in any game, and Taxi Chaos is no different. Taxi Chaos sets out to bring familiar Crazy Taxi-style arcade gameplay to modern audiences, and in that respect, it fulfills its mission, and in some ways exceeds the original. The driving is by far the strongest part of the game, and it feels really responsive, unlike Crazy Taxi, where the smallest of nudges on the stick will send you wildly off course. It's also much more varied in its gameplay, and the city is obviously a much more interesting place to drive around and explore. There are even collectibles and passenger quests. The question is then, is Taxi Chaos better than Crazy Taxi? Personally, I would say yes. The driving is better, the passengers have a bit of personality, and it gives the game a bit of humour, and the modern presentation definitely helps. What the game lacks in polish, it more than makes up for in charm, and make no mistake, this is one very charming game. And that's the end of this review, and I really did enjoy this one, and I can definitely see myself spending this weekend staying up late to chase the last few trophies. If you enjoyed this video, please share the love and do us a favour by hitting the like and subscribe buttons below, as well as the bell icon so that you're notified whenever we have new stuff. And go down to the description box below and you'll find our social media links, our website links and a link to our supporters page where you can support our team if you can. I've been Chris, this has been Taxi Chaos, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, bye bye.